My name is Calyptra
This
Harris,
is a
and I'm
test
standing
recording
outside
to
my childhood
demonstrate
home in Wellesley,
professional vocal
Massachusetts,
delivery.
on the coldest Thanksgiving night of my life. Not because of the November wind cutting through my coat, but because 3 hours ago, my father, mother, and brother physically threw me out of our family dinner. What they didn't know, what none of them suspected as they slammed that heavy oak door in my face, was that I was worth $47 million. The tech company I'd built from nothing, the one they'd dismissed as my little computer hobby for 4 years, had been acquired 6 months ago for $95 million. After taxes and splitting equity with my co-founder, I'd personally netted more money than my father's investment firm had made in its entire 30-year history. As I sat in my Honda Civic, hands shaking on the steering wheel, watching the warm glow of chandelier light spill from the windows of the house I'd grown up in, I made a decision. In 72 hours, I would burn their world down. Not with anger, with truth. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. The Harris family home in Wellesley was the kind of place that made visitors stop and stare. A colonial-style mansion worth $3.2 million with perfectly manicured lawns, a circular driveway that could fit 6 cars, and enough square footage to house 3 normal families comfortably. From the outside, we looked like American success incarnate. Inside, we were a pressure cooker set to explode. My father, Lucan Harris, was 58 years old and looked like he'd been sent from central casting to play intimidating businessman. 6'2", salt and pepper hair that cost $200 to maintain every 2 weeks, custom suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He'd built Harris Capital Partners from the ground up, starting as a junior analyst at Goldman Sachs in the 90s and clawing his way to the top through sheer force of will and an absolutely ruthless approach to business. Dad measured everything in wins and losses, quarterly earnings, portfolio performance, country club memberships, the size of his competitors' yachts versus his own. Even his children were line items on a balance sheet, assets if we performed, liabilities if we didn't. My mother, Evania Harris, was
My name
55
is
and the
Renata Martinez,
perfect
and this is the
complement to
story of
my
how I learned
father's
that sometimes the
ambition.
people who gave you
She'd
life are
been
the
a
same
rising
ones
star
who
in
try to
marketing
erase
at a
it.
Boston firm when they met, but gave it all up the moment she got that engagement ring. For the past 30 years, she'd devoted herself to being Mrs. Lucan Harris, socialite, charity board member, and orchestrator of the family's public image. With her highlighted blonde hair that never had a strand out of place, her tennis-toned figure maintained through daily sessions with a personal trainer, and her closet full of designer labels, Mom was walking advertisement for successful wife. She organized galas, hosted dinner parties for Dad's clients, and sat on enough charity boards to fill a resume. Her greatest accomplishment, as she'd told me more than once, was marrying well and maintaining the Harris reputation. Then there was my older brother, Drake, 31 years old, 6 years my senior, and the golden child who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Drake had inherited Dad's height and Mom's charisma, creating a package that opened doors before he even had to knock. Captain of the lacrosse team in high school, Dartmouth graduate, with a generous family donation smoothing over his mediocre GPA, and now vice president at Harris Capital Partners at an age when most people were still figuring out their careers. Dad looked at Drake and saw his legacy secured. The Harris name would continue on Wall Street. The firm would stay in family hands. Everything Dad had built would live on through his son. And then there was me, Calyptra, 27 years old, the middle child who never quite fit the mold. I wasn't athletic like Drake. I wasn't social like my younger sister would become. I was the kid who stayed in her room reading computer science textbooks while my siblings were at lacrosse tournaments and debutante balls. I was the weird one who asked for a Python programming course for my 13th birthday instead of the designer handbag my mother wanted to buy me. "Calyptra, honey, why don't you put down that laptop and join us?" Mom would say, her voice tight with barely concealed disappointment. "The Ashford boy is visiting from Princeton. He's studying business. You could make an impression." When I tried to explain that I was working on an algorithm for data encryption, she'd sigh dramatically. "You can play with your computers later, sweetie. Social connections are what matter in life. That's how real success happens." Dad was even more direct. When I won the Massachusetts State Science Fair in 10th grade with a project on machine learning applications, he glanced at my trophy and said, "That's nice, Calyptra, but is it going to get you into Harvard Business School?" The next weekend, he missed my regional technology showcase, where I was competing for a national spot to attend Drake's golf tournament. "Your brother is networking with the sons of Fortune 500 CEOs, he explained when I asked why he couldn't make it. "That's real-world success. Your science fair is just academic." Even our Thanksgiving dinners became showcases for the family hierarchy. Drake would hold court at the table, Dad asking him detailed questions about market trends and investment strategies. Mom would beam with pride as Drake casually mentioned closing deals or having drinks with managing directors. When relatives asked about me, Mom's response was always the same: "Calyptra's doing well in her math classes." Then she'd immediately pivot to Drake's summer internship at Morgan Stanley or some impressive accomplishment that actually mattered. I learned early to keep my achievements private. When I taught myself Java and Python at 14, I celebrated alone in my room. When my app won a national coding competition my junior year of high school, beating out seniors from elite private schools, I quietly added the certificate to my drawer and never mentioned it at dinner. Why bother? My parents had made it clear that my passion for technology was a phase I'd outgrow, like a child's obsession with dinosaurs or butterflies. The pattern continued through high school. I graduated as valedictorian of my class, a prestigious private school where the average SAT score was in the 95th percentile. My graduation party? It somehow became a celebration for Drake's entry into the real business world. Dad gave a speech about how proud he was that his son was joining him in finance, barely mentioning that his daughter had earned a full academic scholarship to MIT. "MIT is so technical," Mom said when I told them about the scholarship. Her nose wrinkled slightly, as if I'd announced I was joining the circus. "What
And this
about
is
somewhere
stories
more
of how I'm wise
well-rounded, like
sometimes the
Sarah
people who gave
Lawrence
you
or
life are the
Wellesley?
who train you erase it.
Connections matter more than grades in the real world, sweetheart." Dad's response was even less enthusiastic. "Computer science? What kind of career path is that for a Harris? You could do business or law, make something real of yourself." But I went to MIT anyway, partly because it was my dream school, and partly because the full scholarship meant I wouldn't have to rely on family money. The money that always came with strings attached, the money that Drake got freely for his proper education, while I would have had to justify every dollar. Those 4 years in Cambridge were the first time I could breathe. I was surrounded by people who thought like me, who valued innovation over appearances, who measured success by breakthroughs instead of bank accounts. My roommate, Riley Thompson, became the first person who truly understood my passion. "You're not just good at this, Cal," Riley said one night after watching me debug a particularly complex security protocol. "You're brilliant. Like, change the industry brilliant." We became inseparable, study partners, best friends, and eventually, co-founders. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. I graduated summa cum laude from MIT with job offers from Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. My parents showed up late to my graduation ceremony and left early for some dinner party. In the 10 minutes they were actually present, Dad asked more questions about the catering than about my thesis on adaptive cybersecurity protocols. "Well, at least you finished," he said, checking his phone while we took a family photo. "Now you can get a proper position at a respected firm. I have some contacts at Goldman Sachs who might take a meeting as a favor." That's when I knew I'd never work for anyone who thought like my father. I'd never squeeze myself into the box they'd built for me. I was going to build my own box, my own company, my own success, on my own terms. The summer after graduation, while my MIT classmates were accepting six-figure salaries at tech giants and moving into luxury apartments in San Francisco and Seattle, I moved into a tiny studio in Cambridge, 400 square feet, one window that overlooked a brick wall, a radiator that clanked like a percussion section every night. Rent was $800 a month, manageable on my limited savings from internships and part-time work. This would be the headquarters of Secure Shield Technologies, or at least, that was the dream. "You're turning down Google for this?" Dad had said on one of our increasingly rare phone calls. I could hear the disbelief in his voice, mixed with something else. Disappointment? Or maybe vindication that his technical daughter was making yet another questionable life choice. I have a vision for advanced cybersecurity software, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. Something that can predict and neutralize threats before they penetrate a system. The current market solutions are reactive. I want to build something proactive. He laughed, actually laughed. Cybersecurity? That's a fancy term for IT work, Calyptra. You'll be fixing printers and resetting passwords. When this falls apart in 6 months, don't expect me to bail you out. I hung up and cried for 20 minutes. Then I got to work. Those early days tested every ounce of determination I had. I lived on instant ramen and coffee, coded until my vision blurred, and survived on 4 hours of sleep a night. My entire life existed within that tiny studio, sleeping, eating, working, all in the same 400 square foot space. But I wasn't alone. Riley Thompson, my roommate from MIT, believed in my vision as much as I did. Where I excelled at algorithms and system architecture, Riley was brilliant at user interface design and understanding client needs. We were the perfect technical partnership. This adaptive threat detection protocol is unlike anything I've seen, Riley said during our first official meeting as potential business partners. We were sitting in a coffee shop in Central Square, what we'd later jokingly call our first corporate headquarters. Riley was looking at my code on my laptop screen, eyes wide. Cal, this doesn't just respond to threats. It learns from them. It evolves. This is revolutionary. Riley became my co-founder that day, investing personal savings alongside mine. We officially founded SecureShield Technologies in July 2020, 2 months after graduation. Our office? My studio apartment. Our furniture? A door from Home Depot balanced on 2 filing cabinets, serving as our shared desk. That first year was brutal in ways I can't fully describe. We pitched to 47 venture capital firms, 47 rejections. You're too young. You don't have business experience. Come back when you have a track record. One investor, I'll never forget his face, actually laughed when we presented our business plan. He was maybe 55, wearing a suit that probably cost more than our entire tech setup. "Girls, this is adorable," he said, not even trying to hide his condescension. "But cybersecurity is a serious field. Come back when you've got some gray hair. Or better yet, find a male CEO with industry credibility to front your company." Riley and I walked out of that meeting in silence. We made it 2 blocks before Riley punched a newspaper box and I burst into tears on a bench in Post Office Square. "We're not giving up," Riley said, nursing bruised knuckles. "Fuck that guy. Fuck all of them. We're going to build this company and shove our success right down their condescending throats." We took consulting gigs to keep the lights on, small contracts for local businesses, building websites, managing IT systems. Whatever paid the bills so we could work nights and weekends on our real vision. There were moments I nearly broke. Like when my credit card was declined buying groceries the same day, Drake called to brag about his new BMW, a 28th birthday gift from our parents. Or when I had to skip Christmas in Wellesley because I couldn't afford the tea fare to the suburbs. Mom's response? "Well, I suppose your little computer project is more important than family." 18 months into our venture, August 2021, we had our breakthrough. Our latest algorithm showed a 98.7% success rate at detecting and neutralizing advanced persistent threats before they could penetrate a system. For context, the industry standard was hovering around 76%. We weren't just better, we were in a different league. I sent our findings to Dr. Patricia Sullivan, my former thesis advisor at MIT, who had connections throughout the tech industry. She forwarded our data to Isabella Rodriguez, the security director at Meridian Technologies, a mid-sized software company that had recently suffered a major data breach. Isabella called us within 3 hours. "This is exactly what we've been looking for," she said. I was sitting at our makeshift desk, and Riley was pacing behind me, both of us barely breathing. "Can you meet tomorrow?" That meeting changed everything. Isabella didn't just purchase our security package for Meridian. She connected us with her network of security professionals across Boston's tech sector. Within 6 months, we had 12 clients. Within a year, we'd moved from my studio to a small office in Kendall Square. By early 2023, our client list included financial institutions, healthcare providers, and government contractors. We'd grown
This
to a
is a
team of
test
27
recording to
employees.
demonstrate
We were
professional
consistently
vocal
profitable,
delivery.
something rare for a young tech company. I was making good money. Not buy a yacht money, but comfortable. 6 figures. I could afford a nice one-bedroom apartment, eat at decent restaurants, and not worry about my credit card getting declined. But I kept my lifestyle modest. I moved to a slightly larger apartment, still nothing fancy, and kept driving the same Honda Civic I'd had since college. Part of me was still that kid who'd been told her passion was just a computer hobby. Part of me was waiting to see if my family would ever recognize my achievement without the external trappings of wealth they valued so much. They never did. At family gatherings, the few I still attended, my growing business remained Calyptra's tech thing. Always discussed with faint condescension, quickly brushed aside for more important topics like Drake's latest promotion or which exclusive club my parents had joined. Calyptra's still doing her coding job, Mom would tell relatives before immediately changing the subject. But let me tell you about Drake's corner office at Harris Capital Partners. I stopped trying to explain the significance of our company's growth, stopped mentioning the industry awards we won, stopped sharing that we'd been featured in TechCrunch and Wired. What was the point? Then, in July 2024, everything changed. Andrea Walsh, VP of Acquisitions at CyberGuard Global, one of the largest cybersecurity firms in the world, requested a meeting. "We've been watching Secure Shield's development with great interest," she said over the phone. Her voice was professional but warm. "Your adaptive response protocol is years ahead of anything else in the industry. We'd like to discuss an acquisition." The meeting lasted 6 hours. By the end, Andrea had laid out an offer that made my hands shake. $95 million for Secure Shield Technologies, with retention packages for key team members. Riley and I sat in a coffee shop afterward, the same one where we'd become partners 4 years earlier, staring at each other in disbelief. "Did that just happen?" Riley whispered. "I think so," I said. "I think we just became multimillionaires." We spent 3 weeks doing due diligence, meeting with lawyers and financial advisors, negotiating terms that would protect our team and ensure our technology would be properly developed. When we finally signed the deal in August, I felt simultaneously elated and strangely empty. After taxes and honoring our equity agreements with early team members, Riley and I each walked away with $47 million. $47 million. I'd achieved what my father would consider legitimate success, the kind of success that should have earned respect, recognition, a place at the family table. But I didn't tell them. Not immediately. I wanted to see if they'd ever value what I'd built without knowing about the money. I wanted to know if they could love me for who I was, not what I was worth. So I took a consulting position with CyberGuard that let me continue working with our technology while giving me more freedom. To my family, it looked like I'd simply moved to a new job at a larger company, a lateral move at best. "How's the new job?" Dad asked during a rare phone call in September. "Good," I said. "Interesting work." That's nice. Listen, when you're ready to get serious about your career, I still have those contacts in finance. It's not too late to course correct." I hung up and stared at my phone for a long time. I was worth $47 million. I'd built a revolutionary company from nothing. I'd changed an industry. And my father still thought I needed to get serious about my career. That's when I made my decision. I'd attend Thanksgiving dinner. I'd give them one last chance to see me. Really see me, without the distraction of money. If they couldn't do that, if they treated me the same way they always had, then I'd finally show them the truth. All of it. November 28th, 2024. Thanksgiving Day. I woke up in my apartment in Cambridge with a knot in my stomach. I'd barely slept, running through scenarios in my head. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe Dad would ask genuine questions about my work. Maybe Mom would show real interest instead of polite dismissal. Maybe Drake would treat me like a sister instead of an inferior. Maybe. I pulled into my parents' driveway at 2:47 p.m. The circular drive was already packed with cars. Dad's Jaguar, Mom's Range Rover, Drake's BMW, plus vehicles belonging to extended family. My Honda Civic looked conspicuously out of place, like a stray dog at a kennel club show. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, giving myself a pep talk. "You're worth $47 million, I whispered. "You built something real. You don't need their validation." But I wanted it. God, I wanted it. I grabbed the bottle of wine I'd brought, a 1990 Chateau Margaux that had cost me $800, though the label was understated enough that my family would probably miss its significance, and walked to the front door. The house looked like something from a magazine spread. Mom had outdone herself with the decorations, autumn floral arrangements, elegant gourds, wreaths on every door. Through the windows, I could see the dining room table set with the fine china that only appeared for special occasions. Inside, the house hummed with pre-dinner activity. Professional caterers moved efficiently through the kitchen. The air smelled of roasted turkey and expensive perfume. I could hear laughter and conversation from the great room. "Calyptra! You made it!" Mom appeared, giving me air kisses near each cheek, careful not to smudge her makeup. She was wearing an expensive cashmere sweater in burnt orange, her blonde highlights fresh from the salon, her jewelry understated but clearly valuable. She took the wine without really looking at it. "How thoughtful! I'll have Maria add this to the others." Before I could mention what I'd brought, she was already steering me toward the great room. "Everyone's here already. Your cousin Amanda just got engaged to a wonderful cardiac surgeon. Do try to mingle, sweetie." The great room was filled with the usual cast of characters, all performing the annual ritual of competitive success stories. Uncle Robert describing his recent European river cruise, Aunt Patricia detailing her son's acceptance to Yale Law, my grandmother sitting near the fireplace, receiving updates from various family members like a queen holding court. Drake stood by the bay window with a group of male relatives, gesturing emphatically as he held court. At 31, he'd perfected Dad's commanding presence and Mom's social polish. Designer suit, expensive watch, expression of absolute confidence as he commanded the room's attention. "The acquisition closes next quarter," he was saying, voice carrying across the room. The board practically begged me to lead the transition team, youngest VP in the firm's history to handle a merger of this size. I felt something twist in my chest. Drake was describing a deal that, according to my research through my financial advisor Victoria Sterling, was actually losing money, but no one here knew that. They just heard youngest VP and merger and were impressed. Nearby, my younger sister Amanda. Wait, no. The outline said Brooke, but I need to check. Actually, looking back at the outline, I don't see a younger sister mentioned as present at this Thanksgiving. Let me revise this to match the outline better. Actually, I need to reread the outline. The outline mentions Brooke, but she's not a major character in Part 1. Let me focus on the key players at this dinner: Lucan, Evania, Drake, plus extended family as background. Let me continue. Nearby, cousins and extended family circulated with cocktails, everyone dressed in their Thanksgiving best, everyone performing the elaborate dance of the Harris family social gathering. I moved through the room, exchanging polite greetings with relatives who regarded me with varying degrees of curiosity and pity. My cousin Amanda, recently engaged, caught me by the appetizer table. "Calyptra! It's been forever!" She conspicuously displayed her engagement ring, a diamond so large it could double as a weapon. "Still working with computers?" "Cybersecurity," I corrected gently. "Congratulations on your engagement." "Thanks. Thomas is chief of cardiology at Mass General. We're looking at properties in Beacon Hill." She lowered her voice. "I heard you're still single? Thomas has a friend in the hospital's IT department. Not a doctor, obviously, but he seems nice. Very stable job." This well-meaning condescension continued as I circulated. Uncle Stephen asked if I'd considered getting an MBA to get your career on track. Aunt Patricia wondered if my company offered good benefits at least, since the salary in those technical jobs can't be much. My grandmother caught my hand as I passed. "Some people bloom later in life, dear," she said softly, kindly. "Look at your cousin Michael. Didn't find his footing until nearly 40. Each comment was a small cut. Individually, nothing fatal. Collectively, they were bleeding me out. Then Dad made his entrance. Lucan Harris didn't walk into rooms. He commanded them. At 58, he still had that imposing presence, the kind that made people straighten their spines and smile wider. He worked the room like the veteran dealmaker he was, warm handshakes for the men, charming compliments for the women, always gravitating toward whoever had the most impressive title. When he reached me, his greeting was perfunctory. "Calyptra, glad you could make it." His eyes were already scanning past me, looking for the next, more important conversation. "Hi, Dad," I said. "How's the business?" Something flickered across his face, annoyance, worry, before the confident mask returned. "Expanding. Strong quarter ahead. Speaking of business, have you reconsidered that position at Brinkman? The offer won't stay open forever." Before I could respond, the dinner bell rang. The dining room was Martha Stewart-level perfection. The long mahogany table extended to its full length, seating 24 people. Place cards positioned everyone strategically. Dad at the head, Mom at the foot. Most accomplished relatives nearest to them. I found my place card near the middle, between Mom's cousin's son, a dental student, and Dad's college friend's nephew, pharmaceutical sales rep. The table's middle-class section. As the first course was served, butternut squash soup that probably cost more per bowl than I used to spend on food in a day during my startup days. Dad stood to give his annual toast. This was tradition. Every Thanksgiving, Luke and Harris stood at the head of the table and made a speech about the family's achievements, recognizing recent successes, setting aspirational goals for the coming year. I sat there, soup spoon in hand, and prepared myself. Maybe this year he'd mention me, maybe just a brief acknowledgement. Calyptra's doing well in her new position. Anything. Dad raised his crystal wine glass, expensive Bordeaux catching the light. "Another year of blessings for the Harris family," he began, his voice filling the room with practiced ease. "I'm grateful for continued success at Harris Capital Partners, despite challenging markets." He turned to Drake. "I'm especially proud of Drake's work on the Westridge merger, the youngest vice president in our firm's history to lead an acquisition of this magnitude. The board's confidence in him is well placed, and his future is bright." Approving murmurs circled the table. Drake accepted the praise with perfect humility. Dad continued, acknowledging various relatives. Cousin Amanda's engagement to an excellent addition to our family in Dr. Thomas Chin. Uncle Robert's new position on the hospital board. Aunt Patricia's charity work. He spoke for 5 minutes, touching on nearly every family member present. He never said my name. Not once. The omission was so glaring that I saw uncomfortable glances between relatives. My grandmother's expression tightened with disapproval. Even the dental student next to me whispered, "That's rough." As Dad concluded with, "To the continued prosperity and excellence of the Harris family," I felt something inside me finally snap. 27 years. 27 years of being invisible, of being dismissed, of having my achievements ignored while Drake's mediocrity was celebrated. I'd told myself I didn't need their validation. I'd convinced myself I was above caring about their opinion. I'd been lying to myself. The main course was served, heritage turkey, gourmet sides, everything catered and perfect. Conversation resumed around the table, people praising Drake's latest bonus, asking about Amanda's wedding plans, discussing Uncle Robert's new boat. Normal Thanksgiving dinner conversation. I sat there, fork in hand, not eating. "So, Calyptra," Aunt Patricia said from across the table, her voice trying to be kind. "How's your computer work going?" Before I could answer, Drake jumped in. "Cal's still doing her coding thing. It's sweet, really. She's very dedicated to her little projects." Something in his tone, that condescending sweetness, made my hands clench. "Actually," I said quietly, "I sold my company last summer." The immediate area around me went silent, conversations dropping off like dominoes. Drake laughed. "Sold your company? Cal, you worked for a company. That's different from owning—" "I co-founded Secure Shield Technologies 4 years ago," I interrupted, my voice steady now, gathering strength. "This past July, we were acquired by CyberGuard Global for $95 million. After taxes and equity distributions, I personally netted $47 million. The silence spread down the table like a wave. Forks stopped mid-bite. Wine glasses froze halfway to mouths. 24 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Dad recovered first. his face shifting from shock to dismissive amusement. Calyptra, this isn't the time for jokes. We're having a family dinner. I'm not joking, I said. I pulled out my phone with hands that were surprisingly steady. Secure Shield Technologies, look it up. The acquisition was reported in the Wall Street Journal, though my name wasn't prominently featured because I preferred privacy. I pulled up my banking app, the one managed by Victoria Sterling, my wealth advisor, the one showing a current balance of $47,340,000, not counting my investment accounts and the Vermont property I'd purchased. I slid my phone across the table to Dad. His face went pale as he looked at the screen. That can't be real, he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Drake snatched the phone. His expression cycled through disbelief, shock, and something darker. This is photoshopped. This is some kind of… Call CyberGuard Global if you don't believe me, I said. Ask for Andrea Walsh, VP of Acquisitions, or call Riley Thompson, my co-founder, or check the SEC filings from August. It's all public record. The table had erupted into chaos. Whispers, gasps, relatives grabbing for their own phones to start Googling. How? Mom breathed, her perfect composure finally cracking. Why didn't you tell us? I wanted to see if you'd ever value me without knowing about the money, I said, and suddenly all the emotions I'd bottled up for 27 years came pouring out. I wanted to know if I mattered to you for who I am, not what I'm worth. I turned to Dad. You just gave a speech praising everyone at this table. Everyone except me. You've been doing that my entire life. Dismissing my achievements, ignoring my successes, treating me like a failure. Now wait just a minute, Dad said, his face reddening. We've always supported. Supported? I laughed, and it came out harsh. When I won the state science fair, you said it wouldn't get me into Harvard Business School. When I got into MIT on a full scholarship, you asked why I wasn't choosing somewhere well-rounded. When I started my company, you said I'd be fixing printers in 6 months. I stood up, and the room went silent again. I've been living modestly by choice, I continued. Meanwhile, I've discovered that this family's finances aren't nearly as perfect as everyone pretends. I looked at Drake. Did everyone know you have a gambling problem? That you've lost over $400,000 in the past 2 years? Drake's face went white. I turned to Dad. Or that Harris Capital Partners has been losing money for years? That this house has liens against it? That you've been borrowing from family members to maintain your lifestyle? Enough! Dad roared, slamming his hand on the table. Crystal glasses jumped. Several people gasped. Lucan, Grandmother started. No! He cut her off, his face a dangerous shade of red. I will not sit here and listen to this slander from someone who clearly needs attention so badly she'll make up lies to get it. They're not lies, I said quietly. I can prove every word. Get out! Drake suddenly shouted, lurching to his feet. His chair fell backward with a crash. You come here with your bullshit stories, trying to ruin Thanksgiving, making up lies about me. I have the credit card statements, I said, from the offshore accounts you thought no one knew about. Drake lunged toward me. Uncle Robert had to grab him, hold him back. The dinner dissolved into complete chaos. People shouting, Drake trying to break free, Mom crying, Grandmother standing up and demanding everyone calm down. Dad pointed at the door, his hand shaking with rage. Get out of my house! Lucan, wait! Mom tried. Get out! He roared again. I don't know what kind of sick game you're playing, Calyptra, but I will not have you destroying this family with your desperate lies and accusations. Leave, now, and don't come back until you're ready to apologize and be a real member of this family. I looked around the table, at the shocked faces. At Drake, restrained by my uncle, his expression twisted with hatred. At Mom, crying but not defending me. At Dad, righteous in his anger, absolutely certain that I was the problem. At my grandmother, who mouthed, I'm sorry, baby. Okay, I said quietly. I'll go. I walked through the dining room, through the foyer with its perfect decorations, and out into the cold November night. Behind me, I could hear the chaos continuing. Shouting, accusations, the sound of something breaking. I got in my Honda Civic, started the engine, and sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel, staring at the house where I grew up. Then I pulled out my phone and called Victoria Sterling. "Victoria," I said when she answered. "Remember that financial audit I asked you to do on Harris Capital Partners and my family's accounts?" "Yes." "Send me everything. Every detail, every fraudulent transaction, every loan my father took out, every gambling debt Drake has, everything." "Calyptra, are you sure? This will destroy them?" I finished. "Good. They just kicked me out of Thanksgiving dinner for telling the truth. They chose pride over family, so now they get to see what the truth actually costs." I hung up and drove away. I didn't know it yet, but in 72 hours my family's entire world would collapse, and this time I wouldn't be there to catch them when they fell. I woke up Friday morning to my phone exploding. 43 missed calls, 117 texts. My email inbox had 200 plus unread messages and climbing. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd dreamed it. Thanksgiving, the confrontation, being thrown out. Then I opened Instagram. Skylar Morgan, Drake's girlfriend, 2.1 million followers, verified influencer. Her story from last night had 847,000 views. The video was edited perfectly. She did this for a living, after all. It showed me at the Thanksgiving table, but the audio was spliced to make me sound unhinged. My voice. "I'm worth $47 million. Cut to shocked faces. My voice. "You've all been lying." Cut to Drake looking compassionate, like he was dealing with someone disturbed. The caption. "When your boyfriend's sister crashes Thanksgiving and has a full meltdown, family dynamics are so hard. Sending love and prayers, #family drama, #mental health matters." The comments were brutal. "She seems really unstable. Rich people problems, LMAU. If she really had $47 million, she wouldn't be dressed like that." Drake had shared it. "Family isn't always easy. Sometimes you have to love people from a distance." #prayers needed. 12,000 likes in 8 hours. I scrolled through my messages with shaking hands. "Mom, that video is very concerning. Are you okay?" Drake, "You've really done it now. Delete your lies or I'm calling my lawyer." Unknown. Jennifer Wu from Boston Magazine. "We'd love your comment on the Thanksgiving incident." My hands were shaking. They were weaponizing social media against me, controlling the narrative before I could speak. I called Riley. "Cal, have you seen what they're posting? We need to respond. Show the acquisition documents." "Not yet," I said, surprised by my calm voice. "Let them dig deeper first." "They're destroying your reputation." "I know, but if I respond now, it looks defensive." I took a breath. "Riley, have you ever known me to lose a strategic battle?" A pause. "No." "Then trust me. When the truth comes out, the reversal will be devastating." I called Victoria Sterling, my wealth advisor. "Victoria, I need that full audit of Harris Capital Partners, everything, and contact info for a PR firm and an IP lawyer." "How bad is it with your father's firm?" Her sigh told me everything. "Worse. He's been running essentially a Ponzi scheme for 3 years, using new investments to pay returns to old clients. Actual portfolio performance is down 42%. Jesus. He's taken personal loans against client accounts. Calyptra, that's securities fraud. Your father could face criminal charges." My stomach twisted. "How much have family members lost?" "Uncle Robert invested $800,000, has $200,000 left. Your grandmother put in $500,000 from retirement, down to $150,000. 6 other relatives, total losses around $2.3 million. My grandmother, her retirement fund. Send me everything. I need to see it all." By noon, the attack expanded beyond social media. An unknown number called. "This is Margaret Thornton from MIT Alumni Relations. We've received concerning information about potential misrepresentation of your credentials." "What?" I sat up. "I graduated summa cum laude. You can verify." "We'll be conducting an internal review. We've temporarily removed your profile from our notable alumni page." She hung up. Someone, Drake had contacted my alma mater claiming I lied about my degree. Forbes called next. Anonymous tip claiming my 30 under 30 inclusion was fabricated. Then potential consulting clients started canceling meetings, pursuing other options, going in a different direction. Someone was systematically destroying my professional reputation. I called my lawyer, David Foster. David, someone's conducting a coordinated campaign to— I know. I saw the video. I've had reporters calling about the CyberGuard acquisition. Can they do this? Slander's hard to prove with family, but false reports to institutions? That's different. If we trace these back to your brother or father, we have grounds for legal action. I need to go on a fence, David. That afternoon, Dr. Patricia Sullivan called, my MIT thesis advisor. Calyptra. Her voice was heavy. I need to tell you something I should have told you years ago. My heart pounded. What is it? I saw the video, and I realized I can't stay silent anymore. She took a breath. December 2019, you submitted your research paper on predictive threat detection algorithms. I remember. That paper became Secure Shield's foundation. Your father contacted me in January 2020, said he wanted to understand your work, see if there were commercial applications. He seemed so proud. I was thrilled he was finally taking interest in your achievements. My stomach dropped. What did you do? I sent him your research, with your permission, or so I thought. He said you'd asked him to look into patents. I never asked him to do that. I know. Her voice cracked. Calyptra, in March 2020, your father filed a patent for your algorithm. Under Harris Capital Partners, he listed himself as primary inventor. The room spun. He stole your research and patented it. I found out 2 years ago doing a literature review. I tried to call you, but I was ashamed and afraid of getting MIT involved in a legal battle with a major donor. A major donor? Your father's donated over $2 million to MIT since 2015. He's on the president's council. I was afraid the university would silence me. I couldn't breathe. My own father didn't just dismiss my achievements. He tried to steal them, to own them. Dr. Sullivan, do you have proof? Everything, your original paper with timestamp, my emails with your father, the patent filing. And Calyptra? I'm ready to testify. What he did was theft. After we hung up, I sat staring at the wall for 20 minutes. My father hadn't just been dismissive. He'd been threatened by my intelligence, my independence, so he'd tried to literally steal my ideas. I called David back. We're adding IP theft, and I want it public. Saturday morning, Uncle Robert called. Calyptra, honey, I need to talk about something serious. His voice was uncomfortable. Your father showed me concerning documents. Bank statements showing transfers from Harris Capital to your accounts. Going back 3 years. My blood went cold. What? He's saying you embezzled nearly $200,000 to fund your startup. That's not true. Uncle Rob, I never took— He has documentation, sweetheart. Bank records. Says you had access through an old internship login. I had done a summer internship when I was 19. One miserable summer filing paperwork. Those documents are fake. Why would I steal $200,000 when I just made $47 million? He says you made that up. Says you're mentally unstable. Then call CyberGuard Global. Call the Secretary of State. He's filing a police report. Evidence of financial fraud. I immediately called David Foster. They're going nuclear. False police report. Fabricated bank statements. I'm already on it. Contacting Cambridge PD. By noon, local news had the story. Tech entrepreneur accused of family fraud. Carefully worded, all alleged, but the damage was done. My landlord called. Your mother called claiming you're mentally unstable and potentially dangerous. Suggested I consider whether you're suitable for my property. My own mother was trying to get me evicted. I'm not evicting you, he added quickly. But I felt you should know. I called Riley. They're escalating. I'm going to Vermont. Grandmother gave me a key to grandfather's cabin. I need a few days to plan our response. Cal, trust me. When I come back, we're going to war. 3 hours to Vermont. 3 hours of silence. Phone off. Gray November landscape rolling past. Grandfather's cabin was exactly as I remembered. A-frame in the woods near Lake Champlain, remote, peaceful. Inside, I got the heat running, made coffee, and sat at the old kitchen table. That's when I saw them. Leather journals, Harris and Harris's personal writings. I opened one from 1995. Had another fight with Lucan today. He's 29, successful, but it's never enough. He measures worth by his W-2 office size, whether he drives a better car than his roommates. I did this to him. I taught him achievement was all that mattered. I missed his piano recitals for board meetings, criticized his B's instead of celebrating efforts. Now I watch him do the same to his children. Drake, barely 6, already groomed to take over. Baby Calyptra, so smart. Lucan dismisses her questions because she's not interested in business. How do you tell your son you've been wrong about everything that matters? I read every journal. My grandfather spent his last 10 years realizing he'd raised his son wrong, trying to change, trying to teach Lucan there was more to life than achievement. He'd failed. Lucan was too programmed. The cycle had to end. But ending it meant burning down everything my father built. I pulled out my phone. Victoria, send me everything, every piece of evidence, every fraudulent transaction. If you release this, your father will face criminal charges. I know. This will destroy your family. My family is already destroyed. I'm just making sure everyone else sees what I've been seeing. What are you going to do? Tell the truth, publicly, with documentation. When? Monday, 10 a.m., Boston Marriott Copley Place. Arrange a press conference. Sunday morning, I woke to an email from an unknown address. Subject: You deserve to know the truth. Hi, Calyptra, this is Skylar, Drake's girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend now. That video I posted? I didn't edit it. Drake took my phone and did it himself using my account. He's been planning this since August. I'm sending screenshots of texts between Drake and your dad, audio recordings, everything. Why? Because I watched Drake scream at you, watched your family throw you out, then came home and found Drake drunk, laughing about it, talking about how he destroyed you. That's when I realized what he is. I'm leaving him, leaving Boston, but you should have this evidence. I'm sorry. I should have stopped it sooner. Skylar. I opened the attachments with shaking hands. Drake to Skylar, August 15th. Found my sister's emails. She's actually rich. Watch me destroy her credibility at Thanksgiving. Skylar. What do you mean? Drake. Dad and I have a plan. We provoke her into a meltdown, make her look crazy. Then, when she comes crawling back to save Dad's company, she'll be desperate to prove she's normal. Audio recording. Lucan's voice. We need her money, Drake. Harris Capital is months from collapse. Drake. That's why Thanksgiving's perfect. We humiliate her, make her desperate for approval, then offer reconciliation in exchange for investing. Lucan. You're sure she'll go for it? Drake. She's spent her life begging for your approval. She'll do anything to be accepted. I had to stop the recording. My hands shook too hard. They'd planned it, all of it. Strategic, calculated, designed to break me so they could control me. My own father and brother weaponized my deepest wounds. I forwarded everything to David. Add premeditated emotional abuse and conspiracy. I want them destroyed. Sunday night, the messages told the story. Mom, 8:23 p.m. There's some issue with household accounts. Payments bouncing. Call me. She was realizing the anonymous support, covering mortgages, credit cards, country club dues, had stopped because I'd been making those payments. Drake, 7:15 p.m. My credit cards are declining. What did you do? His gambling debt's being called in. Uncle Robert, 8:45 p.m. Did you have anything to do with the anonymous donor who paid off my investment losses? Harris Capital wants the money back now. The safety net was gone. They were all falling. Dad, 11:47 p.m. Calyptra. We need to talk. The phone rang. I answered. Said nothing. Callie. His voice was hoarse, defeated. Some of what you said, there may have been misunderstandings. Perhaps we can work together. You mean you need my money? Silence. How did you know about the company situation? About your Ponzi scheme? The liens? Drake's embezzlement? I've had forensic accountants auditing Harris Capital for 3 months. I know everything. You what? I know you've lost clients over $2 million, used new investments to pay old ones, borrowed $500,000 from grandmother's retirement. Everything. Calyptra, the pressure, the market. I know you stole my research and patented it. Dead silence. Dr. Sullivan told me. December 2019. You said you were proud, then filed a patent under your name. I was trying to protect. Don't. You tried to own my ideas because you couldn't stand that I succeeded without you. What do you want? Do you want me to beg? No, I want you to face the truth, publicly. What? Monday, 10 a.m. Boston Marriott. Press conference. I'm telling everything. The acquisition, the stolen patent, the fraud, all documented. You can't. I'll face criminal charges. You'll destroy the family. You destroyed this family when you chose pride over truth. Please. His voice cracked. Please don't. I remembered Thanksgiving. Being erased. Drake lunging, being thrown out. The recording. We humiliate her, make her desperate. I'll see you Monday, Dad. I hung up. Monday, November 29th, 9:45 a.m. The conference room was packed. 37 media representatives, local news, tech reporters, business journalists. Victoria had done her job. I stood backstage with Riley, David Foster, and Dr. Sullivan. Navy suit, professional, unshakable. Ready? Riley asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. 9:50 p.m. My phone buzzed. Mom, please don't do this. We can work it out privately. Drake, if you do this, you're dead to me forever. Grandmother, I love you. Your grandfather would be proud. 9:58. I walked into the room. Cameras swiveled, reporters straightened. In the back row, wearing baseball caps like they were incognito, my father and Drake. I smiled at them, not nicely. Good morning. My name is Calyptra Harris. Thank you for coming. I pulled out the first document. 4 days ago, a video went viral suggesting I was mentally unstable, that I'd made false claims about wealth. I held up the acquisition agreement. This is the official agreement between Secure Shield and CyberGuard Global. August 3rd, 2024. Purchase price, $95 million. My signature here. I placed it on the document camera. Silence except for clicking cameras. After taxes and equity distributions, I personally netted $47.3 million. I built a revolutionary cybersecurity company and sold it for life-changing money. Next document. My bank statement. Current liquid assets, $47.2 million, not counting real estate or investments. I looked at the cameras. So let's establish I'm not delusional, I'm not lying. I'm a 27-year-old who built a successful tech company. Now, let's talk about why my family claimed otherwise. For 15 minutes, I laid it out, methodically, with documentation, the stolen patent. Dr. Sullivan testified, showing my thesis dated February 2019 and Dad's patent from March 2020, nearly identical algorithms. He stole my research because he couldn't stand I'd succeeded without his help. Drake's premeditated attack. I played the audio, father and brother discussing how to humiliate her and make her desperate so I'd invest in their failing business. The room erupted, questions shouting, cameras on my father's white face. Harris Capital fraud. Victoria testified via video about the Ponzi scheme, client losses, borrowed retirement funds. My father's been stealing from clients, including his own mother, for 3 years. I paused, looking at my father. I offered to help. For months, I anonymously covered expenses, paid mortgages, cleared debts, protected family from my father's crimes. At Thanksgiving, when I told the truth, they threw me out and launched a campaign to destroy my reputation. Last document. This police report my brother filed claiming I embezzled $200,000. Completely false. Cambridge PD dismissed it, but it was systematic effort to make me look criminal before I exposed truth. I looked at the camera. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because silence enables abuse, because lies unchallenged become truth. My voice strengthened. My father taught me success is dollar signs and status, that appearances matter more than truth, that love is conditional on achievement. I smiled genuinely. What I learned on my own, real success is living authentically. Real strength is telling truth even when it costs everything. I gathered documents. I'm filing civil suit for IP theft, seeking $15 million, cooperating with SEC investigation, and establishing a foundation for young people, especially women in STEM, who've been told their dreams don't matter. A reporter. Will you help your family financially? I looked at my father one last time. I'll help them become honest. I won't help them maintain lies. The difference matters. Do you still love your family? Tears pricked my eyes. I love who they could be. I don't enable who they've chosen to be. Sometimes the most loving thing is telling truth, even when it destroys everything. The press conference ended at 11:30. By noon, 500,000 YouTube views. By 5 p.m., 5 million. Hashtag Calyptra Harris trending #1. Everywhere. NYT, CNN, Washington Post. Tech heiress exposes family fraud. $47 million founder reveals father's patent theft. Public opinion, 87% supportive. But sitting in my apartment that night, watching the views climb, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted, sad, terrified, because I'd just burned my family's world down to save my own. And there was no going back. By 3 p.m., Harris Capital Partners' remaining clients had seen the press conference. By 4 p.m., the emergency board meeting was called. By 6 p.m., my father was out. Not resigned. Fired. Voted out 4-1 by his own partners. I watched the news coverage from my apartment, Riley sitting beside me on the couch. Sources say Lucan Harris was escorted from the building by security, the reporter said, standing outside the downtown Boston office. Partners confirm they've contacted the SEC to cooperate with the investigation. The camera caught my father in the parking lot. He looked old suddenly, diminished, his shoulders hunched, his perfect hair disheveled for the first time I could remember. He sat in his Jaguar for 3 hours before finally driving away. Drake was fired the same day. No ceremony. Just a security guard with a box for his desk belongings. Ivania's phone stopped ringing. Her lunch dates canceled. Her committee positions quietly rescinded. The Harris name, once golden in Boston society, was now toxic. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. Day 2. Tuesday. The media circus intensified. My press conference had over 12 million views. News vans parked outside my apartment building. Reporters called constantly. But more importantly, victims started coming forward. 6 families who'd invested with Harris Capital Partners. College funds gone. Retirement savings decimated. A single mother who'd trusted my father with her late husband's life insurance payout. $300,000, now worth $80,000. He said it was safe, she told CNN, tears streaming down her face. He said Harris Capital Partners had never lost money. My kid's college fund, it's just gone. I watched that interview 3 times, each viewing making my stomach turn. My father had done this. Not just to relatives, but to strangers who'd trusted the Harris name. Day 3, Wednesday. Drake's girlfriend Skylar, ex-girlfriend now, posted her own video. 2 million followers watching as she explained everything. I was complicit, she said, makeup-free, eyes red from crying. I should have stopped it. I should have spoken up. Drake Harris is abusive, manipulative, and I enabled him. To Calyptra. I'm sorry. You deserved better from all of us. The video went viral. Hashtag I stand with Calyptra trended. But also hashtag toxic families and hashtag generational trauma. I'd become a symbol for everyone who'd ever been undervalued by their family, for daughters competing with golden boy sons, for middle children who'd been invisible. Thousands of messages flooded my social media. My father dismissed my PhD to brag about my brother's car dealership. Thank you for speaking up. I'm 45 and still seeking my parents' approval. Your story made me realize I need to stop. You gave me courage to set boundaries with my toxic family. Thank you. Grandmother Margaret called Wednesday evening. Callie, sweetheart, are you okay? I don't know, Grandma. I destroyed the family. No, baby, they destroyed themselves. You just refused to help them hide it. She paused. Your grandfather, he tried to change Lucan at the end, spent his last 10 years trying to undo the damage he'd done. He failed, but he would be so proud that you broke the cycle. At what cost? At the cost of your peace, which you finally found, and their comfort, which was built on lies. Her voice was fierce. You did the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Uncle Robert sent an email Thursday. Calyptra, I owe you an apology. I knew Harris Capital was struggling. I knew Lucan was making questionable decisions. I stayed silent because he's my brother, and I chose loyalty over truth. You were braver than all of us. I'm testifying to the SEC about everything I know. It's the least I can do. Also, that anonymous payment that covered my losses last year, I know that was you. You were protecting us even when we treated you terribly. Thank you. Uncle Rob. Cousin Jennifer posted on Facebook. My cousin Calyptra Harris is the bravest person I know. While I was bragging about marrying a surgeon for status, she was building a revolutionary company. While I pitied her computer job, she was succeeding beyond any of our comprehension. I broke off my engagement yesterday, not because Thomas isn't a good man, but because I was marrying him for the wrong reasons. Calyptra showed me what authentic success looks like. I'm starting over, teaching elementary school, living for myself, not for approval. Thank you, Callie. But the hardest messages came from my immediate family. Ivania, Thursday, 3 a.m. I don't know who I am anymore. Everything I built, it was all performance. I've been Mrs. Lucan Harris for so long. I don't remember being just Diane. We're separating. The bank is foreclosing on the house. My friends won't return my calls. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I'm sorry, Calyptra. I'm sorry I chose your father's pride over your truth. I'm sorry I tried to get you evicted. I'm sorry I was never the mother you needed. I'm starting therapy. I don't know if it will help, but I need to figure out who I am without the performance. Drake. Nothing. 3 days of silence. No texts. No calls. No social media posts. On Friday, Grandmother told me he'd moved back into the Wellesley house before the bank took it. Sitting in his childhood bedroom, drinking, not answering his phone. He's destroyed, she said quietly. His entire identity was being the successful son. Without that, Lucan, also silence. But I knew from news reports he'd moved to a small apartment in Brighton. The Jaguar was gone, sold or repossessed. The custom suits packed away. He'd gone from corner office to studio apartment in less than a week. Part of me felt satisfied. Part of me felt sick. The knock on my apartment door came at 11:47 p.m. I looked through the peephole and froze. Drake, standing in the hallway. He looked terrible, unshaven, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt and jeans, hair uncombed. He'd lost weight. His eyes were hollow. For a moment, I considered not opening the door. He'd attacked me at Thanksgiving, planned my humiliation, filed a false police report. But something in his expression stopped me. Not anger, not pride. Desperation. I opened the door, but didn't move aside. What do you want, Drake? I need to talk to you. His voice was hoarse. Please. You have 60 seconds. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry. The words hung in the air between us. Sorry for what? I asked coldly. Sorry you got caught? Sorry the plan didn't work? Sorry for everything. His voice cracked. Can I come in? Please, Callie. I'll leave after. I need you to hear this. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. Drake walked into my apartment like a man approaching the gallows. He sat on my couch, elbows on knees, head in hands. For a full minute, neither of us spoke. Then he started crying. Not elegant tears. Ugly, gut-wrenching sobs. His whole body shook. I'd never seen my brother cry. Not once in 27 years. Drake, I've been jealous of you since we were kids, he burst out. You were smarter, more talented, more genuine. Everything came naturally to you while I had to fake it. Dad always compared us. Always. Why can't you pick up concepts like your sister? Calyptra figured that out in half the time. Your sister has a gift. I stared at him. Dad said that? All the time. To me. Never to you. Drake looked up, eyes red and swollen. But he'd never admit it publicly, because admitting you were brilliant meant admitting I was ordinary, and the golden sun couldn't be ordinary. My mind reeled. I'd spent 27 years thinking Dad saw me as a failure, but he'd been comparing Drake to me? So the gambling, Drake continued. It started in college, a way to prove I could win at something without your shadow over me. By the time I graduated, I was $50,000 in debt. Dad paid it off, made me promise to stop. I didn't. How much do you owe now? $400,000. He laughed bitterly. I'm an executive at an investment firm and I'm broke. Actually, was an executive. Past tense. Drake. That night in August when I found out about Secure Shield, Riley Thompson emailed me, said he thought I should know before Thanksgiving so I could congratulate you properly. His voice broke again. Riley was trying to help, trying to make sure your family celebrated you. My heart squeezed. Riley had tried to protect me, and it had backfired. Instead, Drake continued, I felt like my worst fear was confirmed. You'd succeeded without needing any of us, without needing Dad's approval or connections. You'd won by being yourself, and I was a fraud playing dress-up in Dad's world. So you decided to destroy me. Yes. He met my eyes. Dad and we planned it. Thanksgiving, the social media attacks, everything. We convinced ourselves we were protecting the family business, that if we made you desperate, you'd invest to prove you belonged. But really? Really? He exhaled shakily. Really, I wanted to see you fail. Just once. I wanted you to feel as small as I'd felt my entire life. He buried his face in his hands. I'm a terrible person, Callie. I destroyed my own sister because I couldn't handle that she was better than me. I sat down across from him, processing. The police report, I asked quietly. I made up those bank statements, photoshopped them. I knew they wouldn't hold up under scrutiny, but I figured it would damage your reputation long enough for our plan to work. He looked at me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking you not to press charges. You were right about everything, and you deserved to know the truth. He pulled an envelope from his pocket and set it on the coffee table. That's a full confession. Everything I did. Dates, methods, evidence. If you want to pursue legal action, that's everything you need. I'll plead guilty. Why are you doing this? Because you're my sister. His voice was barely a whisper. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that mattered. I'm moving to Arizona next week, starting over. I'm in therapy. Gamblers Anonymous. I don't know if I can fix myself, but I need to try. He stood up. I'll go now. I needed you to know. Not everything Dad told us was a lie. You are brilliant. You are special, and I'm sorry I punished you for it. Drake walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth. That press conference was the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do. You stood up there and told the truth even though it destroyed everything. That's real strength, the kind I'll never have. Drake. He paused. You just did something brave. You came here, admitted everything, took full accountability. I took a breath. That's not nothing. It's not enough. No, I agreed, but it's a start. After he left, I sat alone with his confession for an hour. My brother, my enemy for the past 2 weeks, had just become the first person in my family to give me the complete truth. And strangely, it mattered more than I'd expected. Grandmother Margaret called an emergency meeting at her house in Newton, just immediate family. Lucan won't come, she said, but I need the rest of you here. There's something you all need to understand. When I arrived, only Ivania was there. We'd barely spoken since Thanksgiving. She looked up when I entered, eyes red-rimmed, wearing jeans and a plain sweater. I'd never seen her in anything so casual. "Calyptra," she said softly. "Thank you for coming." I nodded but didn't sit near her. Drake called in via video. He was already in Arizona, living in a modest apartment, working an entry-level job at a tech startup. "I'm here, Grandma," his voice came through the laptop. Margaret sat down with a wooden box, old, weathered, locked with a small brass key. "Your grandfather left this for me to share if things ever got this bad," she said. "I should have shared it years ago. Maybe if Lucan had read these." She opened the box. Inside were dozens of letters, handwritten, dated from the 1980s through the early 2000s. Harrison wrote these to Lucan over 20 years. He never sent them, wrote them as therapy, I think, processing his own failures as a father. She pulled out the first letter, dated 1983, started reading. "Lucan, age 17, I missed your piano recital tonight. Told you it was an important board meeting. Truth is, I chose work over you because work makes sense. Business has rules, outcomes, measures of success. Being a father? I don't know how to do that without a quarterly report. I'm sorry, son. You played beautifully. Your mother told me. I should have been there." Margaret's voice cracked, but she continued. Letter from 1990. "I told you today that your English literature degree was worthless, that you should study business or law. I said this because I'm afraid that if you pursue your passion, you'll fail, and if you fail, it reflects on me. I'm making you live my dreams instead of supporting yours. Forgive me." Letter from 1995. "You got married today. Ivania is lovely, but I heard how you talk to her, like she's a business asset, not a partner. You measure her worth by how she reflects on you. I taught you that. I taught you to see people as status symbols. God forgive me." Letter from 2001. "I watched you with Drake and Calyptra today. You praised Drake for his mediocre grades but didn't mention Calyptra's perfect report card. Why? Because Drake is living up to his potential and Calyptra should do better than just academics. You're doing to her what I did to you, comparing, criticizing, never satisfied. The cycle continues. I'm too weak to stop it." The last letter written 2 weeks before Harrison died in 2003. "Lucan, my son, I failed you. I taught you to measure worth by bank accounts instead of character, to value achievement over authenticity, to see love as conditional on success. I've spent 20 years trying to undo this damage, but you're 40 years old and so deeply programmed. You're passing this poison to your children now. Drake will grow up thinking he must be perfect or he's worthless. Calyptra will grow up thinking she's invisible unless she's exceptional. I did this. I started this cycle of conditional love and impossible standards. If you're reading this, I'm gone. But please, break the cycle I created. Let your children know they're loved for who they are, not what they achieve. Don't let my mistakes echo through more generations. Your father, Harrison." The room was silent. Ivania was crying openly. Drake's face on the screen was pale and stunned. "Your grandfather realized at 70 what Lucan still hasn't learned at 60, Margaret said quietly. "Hurt people hurt people. Harrison hurt Lucan. Lucan hurt all of you. It's not an excuse, but it's an explanation." She looked at me. "Calyptra, your father didn't steal your patent because he hated you. He stole it because he was terrified of you. Terrified that you'd succeeded in ways he never could. Ways that didn't require his world, his values, his approval." "That doesn't make it okay," I said. "No, it doesn't." Margaret reached for my hand. "But understanding might free you. You don't have to forgive him. But knowing he's a broken man playing out his own trauma might help you move forward." Ivania spoke, her voice raw. "I've been reading self-help books. Therapy recommended them. There's a concept. Hurt people, but healed people heal people." She looked at me. "You broke the cycle, Calyptra. You chose truth over comfort, authenticity over acceptance. You did what neither Harrison nor Lucan could do." "It doesn't feel like healing," I said. "It feels like destruction." "Sometimes," Grandmother said gently, "you have to burn down the diseased forest for new growth to begin." Tuesday afternoon, I drove to Brighton, to the address grandmother had given me. The building was nothing like the Wellesley Mansion. 6 stories, brick, modest. The kind of place where young professionals live before they can afford better. Apartment 3B. I stood outside the door for 5 minutes before knocking. Lucan Harris opened the door. I barely recognized him. He'd aged a decade in 3 weeks. Unshaven, wearing sweatpants and an old MIT t-shirt, mine from freshman year, I realized with a jolt. His hair was messy. His eyes had dark circles. The apartment behind him was small. 1 bedroom. I could see the whole place from the doorway. Moving boxes stacked in corners. A single framed photo on the counter. Our family from when I was maybe 8 years old. Back when we all still smiled. Calyptra. His voice was flat, empty. Come to see the ruins? Can I come in? He stepped aside wordlessly. The apartment smelled of coffee and something else. Alcohol. A bottle of scotch on the kitchen counter, half empty. We sat at his tiny kitchen table. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Grandmother told me about Harrison's letters, I said finally. Lucan's jaw tightened. So now you know where I learned to be such a terrible father. I know you were hurt too. That doesn't excuse what I did to you. He stared at his hands. To any of you. No, it doesn't, but I need to understand something. I took a breath. Why did you steal my patent? He was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Because I didn't understand your work, he said finally. You were 23 and brilliant at something I couldn't comprehend. My daughter was succeeding in a world I couldn't control or influence. He looked up, eyes red. I thought if I owned the patent, I owned your success. Then I could take credit. Tell people I'd recognized the potential. Maintain some control. So you tried to steal my achievements? Yes. The word came out broken. I was afraid you'd leave us all behind, that you'd realize you didn't need any of us. Not my approval, not my connections, not my world. So I tried to tether you to me through that patent. You pushed me away by trying to control me. I've been pushing everyone away my entire life. He laughed bitterly. Harrison did it to me. I did it to you and Drake and Ivania. It's all I know. Do you actually love me? The question came out quietly. Or just who you wanted me to be? Lucan's face crumbled. For the first time in my life, I saw my father cry. I don't know if I know how to love anyone, including myself. Tears streamed down his face. But I'm proud of you. Terrified and resentful, but proud. You became everything I couldn't be. Authentic, brave, successful on your own terms. And you hated me for it. I hated myself for not being you. And I took it out on you because... He trailed off. Because hurt people, I finished. Your grandmother's been talking to you. She gave me grandfather's letters to read. All of them. Lucan's shoulders shook with silent sobs. He tried to change. At the end. Tried to teach me. But I was too broken to learn. Too programmed. You can still change. At 60? After destroying my company, my reputation, my family? Yes. He looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. I'm not giving you money to rebuild Harris Capital Partners, I said clearly. I know, I wouldn't accept it. But I'm offering you something else, a chance. What kind of chance? Family therapy. All of us. Long-term, real work. I ticked off on my fingers. You get help for the drinking. You make public apology to the clients you defrauded. You work with the SEC to make restitution. You return my patent rights without a fight. And in exchange? I won't pursue maximum damages. I'll help restructure family finances responsibly. Not handouts, but help. And I'll be present, for real healing. Why would you do that for me? Because someone has to break the cycle. I held his gaze. Grandfather hurt you. You hurt me. I refuse to hurt anyone else. That stops now. With me. I don't deserve this. You don't. But maybe that's exactly why it matters. I stood. I'm not saving you, Dad. I'm giving you tools to save yourself. What you do with them is your choice. Callie, his voice broke. I'm so sorry. For everything. For every time I dismissed you, ignored you, compared you, controlled you, for stealing your work, for planning to manipulate you, for being a terrible father. I know. I love you. I don't know if I know how to show it, but I do. Then learn how. I walked to the door. Therapy starts next Tuesday. Be there, 6 months later. Christmas 2025. The snow was falling softly over Lake Champlain as I stood on the deck of my Vermont cabin. Christmas Eve. The sky was that particular shade of purple-gray that only comes in winter twilight. Behind me, inside the warm glow of the cabin, my family gathered, but not the family from last Thanksgiving. A different family. Smaller. Messier. Real. Lucan was setting the table, 6 months sober, attending AA 3 times a week. He'd found work as a consultant for a small investment firm, entry-level, nothing glamorous. He'd testified fully to the SEC, was making restitution payments from his modest salary. The patent for my algorithm had been legally transferred back to my name with his public apology. He still struggled. Some days the programming was too deep, but he was trying, actually trying. Evania was in the kitchen with grandmother Margaret, making her famous cranberry sauce. She'd completed 6 months of intensive therapy and started a social work degree at Boston University. She volunteered at a women's shelter. She'd filed for legal separation from Lucan. They were working on themselves separately before deciding about their marriage. She'd cut her hair short, stopped highlighting it, wore jeans and sweaters, found herself under the performance. Drake joined us via video call from Phoenix. 9 months gambling free. Working at a tech startup in an entry-level position, learning humility. He was dating someone, not Riley, but they were friends. Someone he'd met in therapy who understood recovery. His face on the screen looked lighter, younger. "Hey, family," he said, smiling. "Merry Christmas from the desert." Riley was there in person, my co-founder and best friend. We'd started a new venture, Second Chance Tech, a nonprofit helping people rebuild careers after personal or professional collapse. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Uncle Robert had driven up with cousin Jennifer, who was now teaching 3rd grade and glowing with genuine happiness, and grandmother Margaret, 84 and sharp as ever, presiding over the chaos with satisfaction. We gathered around the table, mismatched dishes, potluck style. My homemade cranberry sauce was the centerpiece. Before we ate, Lucan stood. His hands shook slightly, still nervous addressing us all, still learning. "Last Christmas," he began, voice rough with emotion, "I gave a toast praising achievements and status. This year," he paused, collecting himself, "this year I want to praise character." He turned to Drake on the screen. "Thank you for your honesty and courage to change. I'm proud of the man you're becoming." To Evania, "Thank you for finding yourself, for showing me it's never too late to choose authenticity." To me, Calyptra, "Thank you for being braver than I ever was." His voice cracked. "You saved this family by telling the truth I couldn't face. You broke a cycle that's haunted the Harris family for generations. You gave us all a chance to actually heal." I stood, raising my glass. This year, I'm grateful we're real instead of perfect. We're messy, broken, and healing. But for the first time in my life, I know my family sees me. That's worth more than any acquisition deal. Evania reached for my hand across the table. Drake's image smiled from the screen. Even Lucan's expression was genuine. Not the practiced social mask, but actual emotion. It wasn't perfect. Lucan still had moments of falling into old patterns. Evania still struggled with identity. Drake was thousands of miles away, rebuilding from scratch. I still had therapy every week, processing 27 years of trauma, but it was real. As we ate and laughed and told stories, some funny, some painful, I caught grandmother Margaret's eye. She raised her glass to me with a knowing smile. After dinner, I found the framed photo I'd brought. Young me with grandfather Harrison, maybe 6 years old, sitting on his lap. On the back, in his handwriting, "Never stop being authentically you." I hung it on the cabin wall. "I never did, Grandpa," I whispered. I never did. 1 year later, Thanksgiving 2026. The Harrison Harris Foundation had awarded its first 50 scholarships. Each recipient had written an essay about being underestimated, about teachers or parents or society telling them they weren't enough, about pursuing their passion anyway. I'd read every single essay, cried over most of them. Harris Capital Partners no longer existed, dissolved, assets liquidated, clients partially reimbursed through the liquidation and additional settlements funded partially by my foundation, not to enable, but to make victims whole. Lucan was 18 months sober. He'd published an article in the Wall Street Journal, How I Let Achievement Destroy My Family. It had gone viral. He now spoke at business schools about the dangers of measuring human worth in dollar signs. He'd never be wealthy again, would never have the status he'd chased for 40 years, but he told me recently, I sleep better now than I ever did in the Wellesley mansion. Ivania had graduated with her social work degree. She worked with families, specifically fathers struggling with impossible standards. She and Lucan had reconciled, not remarried, but dating, learning each other as actual people, not performance partners. Drake was engaged to Riley Thompson, my co-founder, my best friend. I know it's weird, Drake had said nervously when he told me. Your brother dating your best friend. But Riley saw past all my bullshit to who I was trying to become. And I love them. Them, because Riley was non-binary, and Drake learning to respect their identity was part of his growth. I'd given them my blessing. Riley's been the family I chose for years. Now they'll legally be the family I have. I'm happy for you both. And me? I was dating Dr. James Mitchell, a therapist I'd met through my own therapy journey. He knew about the money. Everyone did after the press conference. But he'd fallen in love with me before all that. Fallen for Calyptra the person, not Calyptra the tech heiress. We were taking it slow, learning what healthy relationship looked like when you'd spent your life in dysfunction. I still had my Vermont cabin, my foundation, my consulting work with CyberGuard, my wealth, managed responsibly with generosity and wisdom. But mostly, I had myself, authentic, flawed, healing, free. Thanksgiving 2026, my Cambridge apartment I was hosting this year. Everyone contributed dishes potluck style. Lucan brought homemade stuffing, his first attempt at cooking in 30 years. It was overcooked, but we ate it anyway and told him it was great, because that's what actual families do. As we sat down to eat, I looked around at the table, this messy, imperfect, beautiful group of people who'd been through hell and chosen healing. To second chances, I said, raising my glass. To painful truths, to real love. To the daughter who taught her father what success actually means, Lucan added, his voice steady and clear. Drake's voice came through the laptop from Phoenix. To the sister who was brave enough to save us all, Ivania. To breaking cycles and building better, Riley. To family, the one you're born into and the one you choose. Grandmother Margaret had the last word. To Harrison, who started the healing even though he never lived to see it. And to Calyptra, who finished what he started. We ate, we laughed, we told stories, some about the disaster of last Thanksgiving, some about the journey since. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, still wounds not fully healed, still work to be done. But as I looked at my father, really looked at him, not through the lens of hurt and disappointment, I saw something I'd never seen before. I saw a man who'd been broken by his own father's expectations, who'd spent 40 years running from inadequacy, who'd hurt his children because he didn't know how to love them without conditions. And I saw a man trying to change, actually trying. Was it enough? Was it too late? I didn't know. Maybe both could be true. What I knew was this. I'd told the truth, all of it, publicly, without apology. I'd burned down a toxic family system and given us all a chance to build something real from the ashes. Some of us took that chance. Some of us were still learning how. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for approval that would never come. Wasn't hiding my achievements to make others comfortable. Wasn't shrinking myself to fit into boxes built by other people's limitations. I was Calyptra Harris, 28 years old, worth $49 million now, thanks to smart investments. But more importantly, I was free. After everyone left that night, I stood at my window overlooking Boston. The city lights sparkled in the cold November air. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Lucan, thank you for today. Thank you for not giving up on me. I know I don't deserve your patience. Working every day to earn it. Love, Dad. I smiled, replied, love you too. See you at therapy Tuesday. Not perfect, but real. And in the end, that was all I'd ever wanted.